Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Today's video is a first in a series I'll be doing on the channel where I do an in-depth overview of one of the investigators in the LCG, along with their signature cards, as well as go over card choices and general strategies I think would work well with them. Recently spoiled in the Circle Undone preview article released on Fantasy Flight's website, the first investigator we're going to be taking a look at is Diana Stanley, the redeemed cultist. Diana is a mystic with 1 willpower, 3 intellect, 3 might, and 3 agility. She has 7 health and 7 sanity, and has a passive ability that reads, Diana Stanley gets +1 willpower for each card beneath her. Her second ability is a reaction that states, after a card you own cancels or ignores a card effect or game effect, if there are fewer than 5 cards beneath Diana Stanley, place that card face down beneath her. Draw 1 card and 1 resource. Limit once per phase. Lastly, her Elder Sign effect reads, +2, you may choose a card beneath Diana Stanley and add it to your hand. Diana is an interesting investigator. Her low base willpower makes Diana stand out from the rest of the Mystic class. As the redeemed cultist, trying to set up a board of usual Mystic staple cards like Rite of Seeking and Mists of Relie can be unreliable, especially in the early game. Diana is all about canceling effects and getting benefits from that. Her passive ability can grant her an additional 5 extra willpower, and by that point you've also drawn 5 extra cards and gained 5 extra resources from that reaction ability, which is pretty nuts. Triggering this reaction ability should be the main goal when deck building. Cards like Hypnotic Gaze, Dark Prophecy, and Ward of Protection are basically auto-includes. There are other cards in other classes as well that cancel effects, but unless we see the back of Diana's investigator card, it's hard to say whether or not she'll actually gain access to these cards. With this mini-game of sorts that Diana is looking to play, it can be tempting to just cram in every card that cancels card and game effects and just call it a day, but that will only get you so far. You'll need cards that take advantage of your newfound willpower. Shriveling, while not great in the early game, can be very useful and one of your only tools later on to dispatch threats. With a potential 6 willpower late game, having this will be like
by the power of Grayskull.
One last point I'd like to make before we move on to Diana's signature cards is how important deck manipulation is to her game plan. Manipulating the top of the encounter deck with a card like Scrying can set you up to cancel an effect and keep moving forward with your game plan, while simultaneously helping you dodge threats like an untimely Rotting Remains. Finding the balance between canceling effects, deck manipulation, and late game payoff cards will likely be the biggest challenge when building a deck for Diana. Moving on to the first of 2 signature cards that Diana has at her disposal, we have Dark Insight, a 2-cost event card that reads, fast. Play when an investigator at your location draws an encounter card or a weakness. Cancel all of that card's effects and shuffle it back into its deck. Do not draw a new card to replace it. This card is a great and simple way to trigger her reaction ability. The fact that you can delay a weakness as well can potentially be campaign changing if used on a card like Hospital Debts. You'll gladly pay 2 resources to cancel that effect. Diana's other signature card is Twilight Blade, Sanctum's Reward. This card is a 3-cost asset with 1 willpower, 1 might, and 1 wild skill icon. It takes 1 hand slot and has an action that reads, Fight. You may use willpower instead of might for this attack. It also has a second ability that states, you may play or commit events and skills beneath Diana Stanley as if they were in your hand. As an additional cost to play or commit a card this way, exhaust Twilight Blade. You cannot trigger Diana Stanley's reaction ability while playing or committing a card this way. As a weapon, this card feels pretty underwhelming in comparison to other combat options, like Shriveling. But it is nice that you can choose to either use willpower or might for the skill test, making it at least versatile. The interesting part of this card, however, lies in its many-worded second ability. In essence, the blade lets you reuse cards that you've put underneath your investigator for a second time, at the cost of the card's cost and exhausting the weapon. Being able to reuse Dark Insight or Ward of Protection to stop the Watcher's grasp can save lives or sanity, or both. With this weapon only taking up one hand slot, you'll at least be able to carry a flashlight with the other hand as well. Diana's signature weakness card is called Terrible Secret, and it reads,
Revelation. If there are no cards beneath Diana Stanley, shuffle Terrible Secret back into your deck. Otherwise, for each card beneath Diana Stanley, you must either discard that card or take one horror. Cannot be cancelled.
With no way of stopping this card can be absolutely devastating in the late game. Early on though, it may not be so bad, as losing one card isn't the end of the world, but if you've already have 5 cards underneath Diana, this is awful, and essentially leaves you completely neutered. Holy Rosary isn't going to do anything for you. While this may not be as harsh as something like Hospital Dits, it certainly creates major feel-bads. Overall, I think Diana is one of, if not my favorite Mystic Investigator thus far. While she may not be the most powerful investigator for a solo mission like Agnes, her unique playstyle and dark insight into the unknown makes her great for venturing out with other party members. She's more of a support character in those sort of situations, as she's not particularly great at one thing until later on in the game, so you're going to want to pair her with someone that's good at doing something right away. Diana is very good at warding off and diverting the Eldritch forces. But at what cost? What do you think of Diana? Are you excited to try her out when the Circle Undone is released? What are some cards I didn't mention that you would include? What investigator should I cover next? Leave your thoughts down below, and thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Arkham related content.